Hello, my name is Josh, and I am part of FPL Chats. Um, so today I just wanted to make this video to show how my team got on and give a Gameweek 20 review of the most recent game week. I'm recording this just before kickoff with the West Ham Brighton game. Let's hope it's a good game for FPL. I've got a couple of players playing in it. Let's see how it goes. So this week I'm currently on 71 points. Despite it saying 70 points, I actually have Semenyo on the bench with my 1 point bench cameo coming on. An okay game week. I'm currently on a green arrow of about 200k, which would take me to 1.7 million in the world. Not a great season so far. However, about 10 game weeks ago, I was on 4.5 million in the world. So it's been a big improvement in the last 10 game weeks, and long may it continue. So this week, I've still got Areola to play in goal. Estepinian still to play. Quite excited about him. Just coming back from injury, scored a brilliant goal the other game week. Saliba got me a grand total of 0 points. Arsenal defence doesn't look to be too solid anymore. I know a lot of people were going double defence, which it's not working out at the moment. Maybe next game, Crystal Palace at home can work out for them. So I've also got Pedro Porro, who picked up 2 points, so a standard game week for him. I've got Kudos in my starting lineup. I wasn't to know whether or not Moyes, West Ham could field him against Brighton, and after the deadline, it turns out that he's going to be going to AFCON Cup of Nations a bit early, which is a big shame because he was in a lot of form, and I've really enjoyed owning him. He's a big reason to my rank rise, which is great. Saka with 7 points, a goal for him, long overdue, you could say, and I'll be keeping him for the Crystal Palace at home game. So next is Salah, who was my vice captain. Everything was looking good this game week until last night when Salah, although scoring me 16 points, an awful lot of people captained him, it just means that it's not as good for me. I can't complain really. He's brilliant, isn't he? I mean, maybe I should have just backed him. So Son got 9 points. Good way to send off for him and Salah, of course, and Kudos in my team. Go to the African Cup of Nations and Asia Cup. Spurs, I'll be interested to see how they play without Son. I think they'll be just as attacking, but it's just about whether they'll be clinical. I am tempted by Richarlison as a potential replacement. Then Cole Palmer, who was the king of this game week, 18 points, which I don't think anyone quite saw that coming against Luton away. But let's face it, he is on fire, and he's looking like a really, really high quality player. I think they're starting to call him Cold Palm on that. So, and his finishing is like he's got ice in his veins, isn't it? So, happy to own him. Watkins was my captain this game week. It was a bit of a last minute decision as to who to captain. Tough call, I found. Watkins I ended up with because why was it because I ended up with Watkins? He's not on penalties, and Aston Villa hadn't been in very good form, but I did feel like this was an important game for them to turn it round in, and just a bit of superstition from my side. He hasn't actually performed very well for me at all, really, when I've owned him. So I thought, why not just captain him? It seems like the weeks I captain him, he doesn't usually pull it off, but those are the weeks that he's meant to pull it off. So I just weirdly went for him this week, just because I wasn't sure. Can't complain about 8 points. And finally, Solanke, who I really did think was going to perform against Spurs, and he did have 9 shots. So it's just about. I think the keeper is pretty good, to be honest with you. Vicario made some brilliant saves. I think Solanke will come again, and yeah, I'm happy to own him in my team. On my bench, I've got Leno with 1 point, Semenyo with 1 point, Baldock with 1 point, and Pinnock with 1 point. I was considering the bench boost this week, whilst also bringing in Trent if I were to do that option, and I'm glad I didn't because Trent ended up with 0 points, and obviously my bench got 4. So yeah, pleased that I didn't make the move to bring in Trent and bench boost, which was viable for me because I had all of my players were playing. That as far as I was aware of, obviously Kudos isn't going to be playing, but I didn't know that. Yeah, so pleased to have not brought in Trent this game week. Instead, I did one move for Pinnock for. Sorry, no, I didn't transfer out Pinnock. My graphic is wrong there. I actually transferred out Lascelles, and Pinnock went to my bench for a Stupinan. So yeah, let's see what he does tonight. Anything from him or Areola is a bit of a bonus. I expect both teams to score tonight, so yeah, that would wipe out both my clean sheets. Yeah, so that was my game week. I would say it's pretty average for everyone in the whole this game week. Let's move on to the fixtures in general, and just to kind of see, who kind of caught my eye in these games. Obviously, Luton, Chelsea, Cole Palmer, without a doubt, he caught my eye. Nkunku didn't start. It was kind of expected because he is obviously just coming into the team after his injury. But he did come on, and with Jackson going to the AFCON, Nkunku really could get a lot more minutes. Aston Villa and Burnley. Just on Chelsea again. I wouldn't expect to be going well. Chelsea's fixtures don't look too good coming up, so I wouldn't expect to go for a defender. But if you were to go for a defender, perhaps Gusto could be a shout because he's looking quite attacking. Villa versus Burnley, fantastic result for Villa. Performance, I mean, it was looking pretty shaky at one point. The performance was okay. Burnley could have got something from the game. Last minute penalty from Douglas Luiz, who just keeps ticking over. This week with a double-digit haul, 10 points. Brilliant buy if anyone got him in. Well done to you. There's one asset from Burnley I'd be looking at, which is Foster. I think he's on a bit of form. He's not in the South Africa squad. I'm not sure if that can change or not, so I'll keep an eye on that. Villa won't be looking at any defenders. If you were to look for a defender, perhaps Moreno could be a shout. The attackers, probably Bailey, Douglas Luiz and Watkins would be the three that I'd be looking at. But obviously if you've got an intuition or a feeling about any of the Villa players, maybe Jacob Ramsey could start hitting form, maybe McGinn, then I wouldn't blame you for going in front of them. Crystal Palace is a Brentford. Crystal Palace's attack just looks infinitely better when Eze and Elise are on the pitch. Absolutely love watching these players. They excite me. I'd love to own them in my FPL team. I do own them in draft, and it's fantastic to own Elise. I tell you what a player he is. I expect him to be really kind of scouted by the bigger clubs in the coming years. It's looking good for them. Mixed fixtures on the horizon, but with less, with no European competition, maybe in the long run, going for players like Elise or Eze could work out. Brentford not looking too good at the moment. I'm expecting the return of Ivan Toney to be good for them, but the rest of their team is they're losing a lot of games at the moment. I expect them to turn it around because of Ivan Toney, and also they have a good manager and they're a pretty steely team who are a good kind of collective when their backs are against the wall. So I expect them to turn it around, and I'll just be keeping my eye on them. Man City 2, Sheffield United 0. Pretty standard win for Man City. They just were patient and bided their time and played some killer passes, beautiful football, and just cruised over the line really against Sheffield United. I was worried about this game not owning any Man City players, but yeah, I mean Phil Foden with 12, he's not hugely owned in comparison to Alvarez, who got 7 points. So I got away with one there. Wolves versus in terms of people to own, in terms of any assets from Man City, I'm hesitant really. I'm hesitant because I mean, of course, they're quality players and they are they're probably going to win most of their games, but in terms of the points spreading, it seems to be quite spread around the team. I may be proven wrong, but yeah, I just find it hard to predict where the points are going to come from. Obviously, the last 2 weeks, Alvarez and Foden have returned in both weeks in the last two. But with the return of De Bruyne and Haaland I expect them to return in the next 2 game weeks. So by game week 22, they'll probably be both on the bench at least. It just mixes it up for Man City's attacking lineup. Doku, of course, coming back as well. That's 3 new players in their attacking lineup. So if you've got Foden, if you've got Alvarez, that's great. I mean, they'll do well for you in the short term, I'm sure, and they already have. But yeah, for me, because I haven't got any of them, I'm just a bit hesitant to bring them in at the moment. It'd be interesting with De Bruyne's back, because obviously just awesome player, isn't he? Moving on to Wolves and Everton. Wolves with a resounding 3-0 win at Everton, against Everton. I mean, Cunha has proved me wrong. I was thinking this season, Cunha looks okay. He looked like a good dribbler of the ball, but I didn't think he had any end product, and he's completely proved me wrong. Brazilian forward, just looks like he is taking the responsibility at Wolves. And with Pedro Neto coming back, I think those two could be an option in the absence of Hwang over the Asia Cup. Everton at the moment, I think they've been on some good form until the last couple of games, but again, it's a similar problem to Man City, where I'm not too sure where the points are going to come from. Like McNeil, Harrison, Calvert-Lewin's going through a dry spell, and I think Beto is taking more and more minutes off of him. Decore was good, but he's been injured recently. I don't feel like I can rely on McNeil and Harrison to bring consistent enough points. I feel like the points would be spread around the team a bit more, maybe from centre backs or midfielders every so often. So yeah, not to invest for me. Nottingham Forest 2, Manchester United 1. I mean, not going away to Nottingham Forest, 5:30 kickoff on a Saturday is not easy for any team, especially one with a manager bounce back. And Forest are on a great run now. They're beating Newcastle and Man United. So, great. I mean, Gibbs White could be an asset. I really like the look of Elanga. I think he's becoming a bit of a talisman for them. Chris Woods had a few goals recently, of course. They have got some African players going to play for their countries. So, and I think they are hit with like 3 or 4 of them going. So maybe that could disrupt their team a bit. But I think Nuno has got a bit of a bit of resilience out of these players, and I think we saw it last season under Cooper that they, against the odds, they stayed up, and so they've got it in them. And I think I'll be keeping my eye on Forest and Elanga especially. Manchester United at the moment, really not sure. Their form is just so up and down. How can you beat Villa and like be inspired in that second half to then? It's not just the loss against Forest, but it's just the nature of it, where they don't seem to have desire, and they just seemed a bit nervous against Forest. Weirdly enough, it wasn't quick enough. It kind of reminded me of the Arsenal performance actually, which is the next game, where I won't be taking any assets from Man United. Garnacho people are talking about because of budget, but again, it just fills up a midfield spot where I don't think there's enough consistency from Man United at the moment. Fulham versus Arsenal, 2-1 to Fulham. Fantastic result for them. They have a few players going to Africa and Asia, I believe. Bassi at the back, who's been fantastic for them as a centre back. He dominated Saka on Sunday. Yeah, he's gone. So is it Tim Ream that comes back in? Yeah, I'm not too sure if that's going to disrupt them too much. Would be a shame, of course, because they are on good form after that game. One good thing for Fulham is that they have 3 home games out of 4 after they go to Chelsea away in 21. So after Chelsea away, then they could be an option maybe to get Raul Jimenez. He's looking good against Arsenal. He was fantastic. He just seems to knit things together. It does remind me a little bit of when they had Mitrovic. He seems to be just dropping at the right time, finding himself in the box at the right time. Timing is everything, and he just seems to be on it at the moment. And from history before, especially before his injury, he was a fantastic player, and I used to own him when he was at Wolves. So it's good to see him back. Fulham's home form is good. It's so if they when they have 3 home games out of 4 after the Chelsea game, then maybe I'll be looking for a short-term punt on Jimenez. We'll see. Arsenal again. I thought like Man United, I thought they were just a bit short, just running out of ideas, a bit kind of predictable. It was really predictable. I just wonder, I know we praise, coaches when they transform a team, and but can you get overcoached? I wonder. Yeah, and Arsenal, Arteta just seems like the kind of guy that just is a bit of a perfectionist. But is he kind of tightening the shoestrings a bit too much, and have they lost a bit of the freedom? Have they lost? I don't know. It just seems a bit too structured at the moment, which has been good for them defensively, but that's changed over the last few weeks because they've just lost confidence. So this break for them could be good. It could be good. Spurs and Bournemouth. So Spurs 3, Bournemouth 1. Quite a surprising result, actually, for me. I thought Bournemouth were going to really at least get something, at least a point from this game. But they just missed their chances. That was all it was. They were cutting through Spurs. I would say Bournemouth had the majority of the game, possession-wise. They were just creating attack after attack. However, Spurs were more clinical. And it goes to question whether or not they're going to be clinical when Son goes to the Asia Cup. Basuma and Sarr aren't going to be available either. That's 2 massively important players in their midfield. So, it's going to be interesting. Ange won't stop his attacking football, which is the one kind of saving grace as to whether or not you're going to get in a Spurs attacker. It would be Richarlison for me. I think he'll probably be the penalty taker as well. So if there's a player that I'm going to be going for out of Spurs, it's probably Richarlison. Just be interested to see how they do against Man United. Away, and if they've still got some edge and clinicalness about them. Bournemouth, fantastic. I think again they're hit by people going to Africa Cup of Nations. Semenyo, one of my players, he's been really good for them. But Kluivert and Sinistera started the last game, and they really did take Spurs apart. So they could be some investment there. One to keep an eye on. And last night's game, which was Liverpool versus Newcastle, fantastic game. I don't know if you've heard this before, but Liverpool got 7.2 XG in that game, which is just monstrous. It's the most XG in a Premier League game since they started recording XG back in 2010. Oh my days. Watching this game, I thought that Newcastle played into Liverpool's hands. To be honest, I thought they were lucky to not go in at half time behind. Um, Obviously, penalty save and 16 points from Salah. Even though I was complaining about it because I didn't captain him, I got away with it. I actually got away with Salah only having 16 points. Man, like, what can you say? I mean, Newcastle just seemed to not have another way of playing, and it's like intensity is meant to be their identity. But when you go to Liverpool away and you're and against one of the best counter pressing teams like in the country, and you're choosing to also press up high and against that Anfield crowd, and you're tired, your team is tired, and you're choosing to do that throughout the whole game, like, man, honestly. After half time, like, you could see, like, by half time, you could see Liverpool were just creating chance after chance after chance, and you've gotten away with it 0-0. Like, it's 0-0 at half time. Surely then you shut up shop and, yeah, just hope for a point or a breakaway. And they did get a breakaway goal. They got that Isak goal, lovely counter attack, and they got the set piece. So their goals, Newcastle's goals, haven't come from Liverpool, from pressing Liverpool. They haven't come from pressing Liverpool. So it begs the question: do you need to press Liverpool when obviously your team is tired? Like, yeah, it just seems to me that they don't have a plan B. Maybe they do, but they're not executing it properly. But honestly, like, anyway, that's my rant. That's my rant about Newcastle. Yeah, I mean, they'll be happy for the break. Like, they've got some good fixtures coming up. Gameweek 23. I think Trippier could be one to own if he's back from his groin problem. Liverpool, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it without Salah. I mean, he's the goal machine, isn't he? Klopp says he's the king of FPL. He just is. But Jota will probably be replacing him on the right. Some people saying Szoboszlai, some people saying Diaz, but Jota's goals probably mean that he's going to be a starter as long as he's fit. And I don't know whether to go for him or not. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The final game is tonight. West Ham versus Brighton. Yeah, interested to see what happens in that game, and yeah, excited for that one. So moving on to potential transfers, I've got 2 free transfers in the bank at the moment, which could be very useful for my team. It will be very useful for my team because I've got 4 players going to AFCON and the Asia Cup. So my current plan is to sit and wait and see how teams do in the FA Cup. Obviously tonight is a big game to see whether Jared Bowen can cope with or without Paqueta and Kudus. I'm sure he can. He's a goal scorer. But yeah, just be interesting to see how they do. Also to see where Ward-Prowse plays. I think he could be playing a bit further forward. And I haven't ruled him out as an option. There are some really good midfield options. So obviously Bowen. Gross, I'm a big fan of Gross. And Brighton have got really good fixtures coming up. Foden, he's on fire at the moment. He really is. As I said, though, Man City's point spreading just concerns me a little bit. But if Man City are on fire and Foden's on fire, he's hard to ignore. And you just wonder, will Pep kind of accommodate Foden in that central position where he is most effective, even when De Bruyne comes back and Haaland comes back? So that means Alvarez would come deeper. Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. Yeah, just spend a bit of time over the next couple of weeks just relaxing and yeah, just seeing what happens in the FA Cup, and I'm sure there'll be developments over the next couple of weeks which help us lean towards a player or two. Also, so midfield that I am considering is Richarlison, as Bowen, Gross, and Foden at the moment. So that would mean taking out Salah, Son, and Kudus for a -4. And going into the week, playing a 3-5-2. I do also like the look of João Pedro, who's obviously on penalties for Brighton. Other than that, keeping my eyes peeled, and if you guys can keep your eyes peeled, I'm going to be making some more videos coming up, just looking into a bit more stats, also looking into fixtures of what teams I think would be really good to target, and I'll also have a bit more information after tonight's game, and see what happens. I think it's going to be good tonight because both Brighton and West Ham are in good form. Really looking forward to it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end. And this has been my first video out in some time. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I welcome any comments. If you'd like to that's great. If you'd like to subscribe, even better. And I will see you again soon. Bye bye.